Chicago, 2011. A cop is murdered. Police and prosecutors swear they have the trigger man. He swears he didn't do it. How far will each side go to prove they're right?
Like it's just one bombshell after another, where you're like, what?
The story of a PlayStation, a brain-eating amoeba, and the relentless pursuit of justice. Off Duty, out now. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Howdy, howdy, ho, and welcome to Fantasy Fan Fellas. I'm Hayden, producer of the Fantasy Fangirls podcast and your resident lover of all things Sanderson.
And I'm Steven, your bookish internet goofball, but you can call me the Smash Daddy.
And we are currently deep diving Brandon Sanderson's fantasy epic, Mistborn. But here's the catch. Steven here has not read Mistborn before.
That's right, hey. So each week, you'll get my unfiltered, raw reactions to every single chapter.
And along the way, we'll do character deep dives, magic explainers, and Steven will even try to guess what's next. Spoiler alert, he'll be wrong.
Newsflash, I'm never wrong. Episodes come out every Wednesday, and you can find Fantasy Fan Fellas wherever you get your podcasts.
Over 90 of the top 100 U.S. accounting firms trust Bill to handle bill pay processes. Why? Because our tools are built on over $1 trillion of secure payments. We're not just moving money. We're powering financial workflows for 500,000 customers. That's a level of expertise you just can't fake. Ready to talk with an expert? Visit Bill.com/proven to get started and grab a $250 gift card as a thank you. Terms and conditions apply. See offer page for details.
Hello, listeners. We just wanted to give you a quick message before the episode starts. We have been having some editing issues with our episodes, and several of you have written to us to alert us about it, and we are aware of it. We are working on it. It's not our fault. It's the podcast platform we've been working with, and it's a long story, but we are working on it. We're aware of it. We're switching to a new platform, which hopefully should be completed. The transition should be completed within the next week or so. And we're sorry. I know it's annoying, but we are working on it. And thank you for bringing it to our attention. Thank you. Bye.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Psych Legal Pop Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about popular culture through the lens of an attorney and a therapist. I'm the therapist, Tess Brigham.
And I'm Brooke Brigham. I'm the attorney.
Today, we are covering Mary Kay Letourneau. Actually, our Uncle Bill made this suggestion. So hopefully he's out there listening. He suggested this to us because he had recently seen May December, and because of that movie, that the Netflix movie, yeah. So because of the Netflix movie, people are talking about this case again, talking about Mary Kay Letourneau and her husband, Vili. Again,
she's now deceased.
Yes. So
she died in 2020.
His widow. So we both watched the May December movie, and we both watched this interview that our uncle had sent us it was this bizarre interview that the two of them did in 2018. That was on it was in Australia. But if you go to YouTube, you can find it. And then Brooke, you listened to some podcasts as well.
Yeah, I listened to several podcasts about it. I mean, there's no shortage of material about this. There's also I think it's A&E autobiography that she did several years ago. And of course, it's autobiography. So it's her story told from her perspective. And it's like, wow, like that. I mean, we'll talk about this at length, but she twists herself into knots trying to justify what she did. And, I don't know. I mean, I think part of it is she's delusional. Part of it is her history, from her family of origin. And I don't know, it's just like one of these things where it's a perfect storm of a bunch of things coming together to make this woman just delusional,
Well, do you want to give like an outline of the story for anybody out there that doesn't know the Mary Kay Letourneau story?
Yeah, well, basically, so Mary Kay Letourneau, she was a married mother of 4, living with her husband in Seattle, Washington. And she was a school teacher, and she was a very popular school teacher.
And she was 35.
Yeah, she was 35. Yeah. And actually, she first met Vili Fualaau, who is the father of 2 of her children, her youngest 2 children. She first met him when he was in the 2nd grade. He was in her class.
Yeah.
In 2nd grade. And in fact, this is sort of strange. She was pregnant with, I don't know if it was her 3rd or 4th child. And her water broke in the classroom when she was at school, and Vili was there. And he also had siblings who were at the school, and I think she might have taught some of the siblings. So she knew the family, she knew him. Then fast forward to a couple years later, she started teaching. At that time, I think she was teaching 2nd grade. Then she started teaching 6th grade. And Vili was her student in the 6th grade. And, it's hard to know exactly what happened because she has a version of what happened and he has a version of, actually, he doesn't necessarily have so much a version of what happened. I don't think he even remembers because in that Australian interview, she's always controlling the narrative about what happened. And a lot of times he was like, really? I said that? I did that? What? I don't remember that. I mean, she's just made up this version in her mind about what happened to justify what she did. So basically, she started taking an interest in him. She felt that he was very gifted and talented as an artist, and she wanted to encourage that. And I mean, basically, I don't know how else to say it. She just developed sexual feelings towards him. And she started grooming him. Now, mind you, he's like 12 when this first started. He's in the 6th grade. She started grooming him and his family because his mother was a single mom. The father was in prison. She was working all the time. She was struggling. And so Mary Kay would, spend time with Vili and take him to, I don't know, she'd buy him art supplies. She was being, supportive of him. And the mother was probably like, oh, that's great. Who's going to suspect that your 12-year-old son's teacher has any, ill intent? And she just started spending a lot of time with him. She had him over to her house. Some of her kids were about the same age as him. And she just took this interest in him that very quickly turned really inappropriate. And she claims that he was the aggressor. He moved in on her, a 12-year-old.
He seduced her.
Right.
Yes, this 12-year-old seduced her because there was a story that I can't remember where it was where I saw it, because I also did just some general research on the web. And he said that I guess he had bet his friends, I think this was in the Australian, he had bet his friends $20 that he could sleep with the teacher. But the way
very unrealistic,
but she spins, which again makes me wonder, is that the truth or not? Because the thing is the problem with the whole story is that Mary Kay has her own version of events, right? Like she sees things the way she wants to see them and what makes her look the best. And he is so out of it. I mean, he seems really can't remember things. And, she constantly is guiding him in these interviews. And, so it's hard to know if even that story was true or what, or if that's some version of events she told him and he decided to make that the truth. Yeah. I don't know.
I think he's so traumatized at this point, still as an adult. And, he doesn't know. I mean, again, she manipulated him so much and she did all the grooming tactics and got him to just basically do whatever she asked of him, whatever he wanted. And he had no, he had no free will. I mean, he was a child. He was so young. And so she just continued to do this stuff. She enrolled him in a junior college art class, and then also enrolled herself in the same junior college to take some classes she claimed she was taking for her like continuing education for being a teacher, just so she could be near him. It was summertime. Okay, school was out. She's like, well, how am I going to have access to this kid? School's out and I'm not seeing him every day. So she signs them both up for a class at this college. So of course she's going and picking him up at his house and taking him to and from these classes and spending time with him. And, eventually I want to first, before we talk about the actual, how this affair started, I want to talk about her history, but it gets to a point where it becomes, well, I think he was 13. There's sort of some conflicting things. I'm not sure if he was 12 or 13 at the time, but it was the summer before he went into 7th grade. And she's having him over to her house. So her husband is out of town and her kids go to bed, and she and Vili are watching TV on the couch. And, she claims that he kissed her. I think he claims she kissed him. But anyway, they kissed, and then she proceeded to have sex with him while her children were asleep in their bedrooms. And then from there, it just got, went to all sorts of places. But, basically, this woman didn't understand, or she claimed to not understand, that what she was doing was illegal. She claimed she didn't know that it was against the law.
And I just want to say that is bullshit. That is such bullshit. This is her new narrative, but there are certain people that are mandated reporters.
Right. Didn't she learn this when she went to school she has a teacher credential?
Yes, because I'm a mandated reporter. Of course they do. I'm a mandated reporter. As a therapist, I'm a mandated reporter. And when you're a mandated reporter, it also means that if you see something like your neighbors or anyone, you report it. You have no choice. That's the duty. And that was shoved down my throat in school. So when I was in grad school, so I find it hard to believe that that you have to take ethics.
Oh, no.
You have to take ethics classes. I mean, it's like, no, you of anyone should know. I would believe that a construction worker doesn't know that you're a mandated report, about that. But she as a teacher should know that she is a mandated reporter. And I'm sorry. It's like, this is wrong. It's against the law.
Well, a lot of this. Okay. So she's obviously a person who is unwell mentally. And it turns out that when the relationship was discovered and she was arrested and she was going through the process of the pre-trial process, I guess they had her do psych evaluation, and someone diagnosed her as being bipolar, as if that explains anything or means anything. I don't really know.
It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't really mean anything. But anyway, she's I feel that a lot of her, whatever's going on or was going on in her mind, had a lot to do with her upbringing. So she grew up in Orange County, California. Her father was actually a California state senator. And I think he was also a professor at some college. I'm not quite sure where, but they were a pretty well-off family in the community. And she was the only daughter. There was 7 siblings. She was the only daughter. Her father was very, very, very ultra conservative, and they were Catholic, and they would preach all this stuff about, not having sex and, all that kind of stuff. And ironically, her father, well, first of all, I didn't know this until I was looking into this case for the podcast, but he actually got elected to Congress, and
he was a congressman.
They moved to Washington, D.C. for a few years. And he actually ran for president under like a third party ultra conservative thing. So he was very politically active, but he lost his seat. They came back to Orange County. And then it came out that he had fathered 2 children with a woman who was a former student of his.
Yes, at Santa Ana College. And he actually was, because in 1978, he was reelected to the California State Senate. So this is when he was a congressman, and afterwards, and they come back, and he was going to run in 1982 for the seat, but then all this came out. So basically, this destroyed his political career. But yeah, I mean, 2 children.
Yeah.
With a student.
And he was very callous about it. The way that it came out was that the mother of these 2 children, there were some allegations that she was abusing one of the children, and CPS got involved. And when CPS got involved, they asked, well, like, where are these children's father? And she named him as the father, and then it came out. Anyway, he wanted nothing to do with them. He could care less about these children. I think after that, they tried to go after him for child support, and he fought it. And he only had to pay like $275 a month for child support for these 2 kids. And he told the woman, he's like, why don't you just give them up for adoption? They would be better off. I mean, it was like the man was just completely callous and cold. But Mary Kay was very close to her father. She worshipped him. She loved him. So, I mean, that's so strange. Granted, the woman he had the children with, she wasn't a minor when this happened, but she was probably like in her early 20s or something, She wasn't very old, but, so she had this real repressed, life when she was younger, and she was like a perfectionist. She was a cheerleader. Not that that's a bad thing, but I mean, she was just very obsessed with coming off as being perfect.
And I guess, her first marriage wasn't good from the start, and she was very vocal about the fact that she didn't love him. And I get the sense that they kind of married each other for convenience. Like it was almost kind of like, oh, it's time for us to get married.
Well, she was pregnant.
Around me.
She got pregnant.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then that makes a lot of sense. So they had 4 kids together, but they also were a mess because they had financial issues. They both had extramarital affairs. And there's also been talk, I don't know if you saw this in your research, about physical abuse. Like he was physically abusive to her. I don't know. But I don't know. That's not been corroborated. But that was a really, really awful marriage. And it sounded like she had been cheating on him long before she met Vili.
And her parents didn't have a good marriage either, and they split up for a while, but they ended up getting back together. But another thing that happened to her in childhood was she had a younger brother who was 3 years old. He drowned in their swimming pool.
Yes, I read that.
And she was kind of sort of like in charge of looking after him. She was out there with him and another younger sibling, and she was supposed to kind of be watching him. And she was at the other end of the pool, and he fell in and he drowned. And people have asked her over the years, like, if she felt guilty about that. And she was just like, no. Which is, so yeah, the sort of compartmentalizing of trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and she definitely has, when we get into the Australia interview from Australian TV, there's this real attitude of, this is how things are, but I don't have to follow these rules. I think her father very much had that, like this political, I'm conservative, I'm preaching all of these values and beliefs and all of this to other people, but but secretly I'm, going against everything that I, tell people to do, or what I believe in, or what I stand for. And she's definitely got a lot of that, of, talking out of both sides of her mouth, just, unwilling or incapable of taking any responsibility or any ability to sort of say that this was wrong. I shouldn't have done this. Even 20 some odd years later, she could not, own it.
Unapologetic.
And I think the father too, right? It sounds like he's very unapologetic. It's almost like, and I don't know. I don't know if it's narcissism or this, I don't know what else to call it, but this belief that the rules don't apply to you.
Well, also, I think they both benefited, Mary Kay and her father benefited from the fact that they were like, well-off white people from Orange County who, were attractive or what, you know what I mean? Like, there's just so many things. Like, when you look at her, she's the last person that you would suspect would ever do anything. She just looks like this all-American blonde, whatever. And even when she was sentenced to, we'll talk about this when we get to it, but the sentence that she received
was
ridiculous. If that were a man or a person of color or anything, it's just like, they would have put that person away for the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm.
And she just got treated with such kid gloves. It was ridiculous, but
yeah. Well, we should move on to the affair, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what's a better word for it. Affair is not what it was.
The crime,
the grooming, and the crime. The crime. Yeah. So I guess they started, and what's interesting too is they started the affair. She signed him up for that art class, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the affair had started in like June. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't even like end of summer, and they had been together intensive. Like, it was June when they started this, and then she was later she was arrested on March 4th, 1997, and she was actually she was turned in by a relative of her husband's.
Right.
I think that it had come out with her husband, and then I think someone from his family was like, "Oh no, this is wrong."
Well, here's some more delusion. Okay. So her husband finds, Vili, I find this kind of hard to believe, but supposedly Vili had been writing her love letters. Okay. But he couldn't keep them in his house because his mom might find them. So Mary Kay would, after she would read them or whatever, or wait, I'm getting this wrong. She would write love letters to him. But he couldn't keep it at his house. So he'd read the love letters and then give them back to her. Anyway, her husband finds these love letters and some journals or something where he finds out about this. Okay, does he go to the police? No. He goes over to confront Vili. A 13-year-old, this grown man goes and confronts him and says, you better stay away from my wife and whatever. And then he proceeds, he does not think to report this to anybody. He does not care about the fact that a child is being victimized. He tells some people in his family, his immediate family, they don't really think anything of it or do anything, but the wife of his cousin, who's not part of this weird family, she's like, oh, no, that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
She contacts the school district, who at first was kind of like, what? Like, they didn't really believe her or didn't do anything. So then she contacts somebody else who's like higher up in the chain. And finally, one day, someone calls her from CPS and says, we'd like to talk to you, finally. But again, that's the thing. Mary Kay's given the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot. Yeah. And then so she ends up pleading guilty in 1997 to 2 counts of second-degree rape of a child. So here, listen, second-degree rape of a child. And Brooke, what was her sentence? Because that's insane.
Well, it was a suspended sentence. She was sentenced to 7.5 years in prison, suspended, meaning, okay, you don't actually have to do this as long as you comply with some requirements. So she had to serve 6 months in prison, jail, whatever.
But 3 of them, I think, were, of those 3 months, I read somewhere that 3 months of that was also suspended. Like, they were going to let her do 3 months in jail and then 3 months, like, probably at home, house arrest. Right. Yeah. It's a sweet deal.
Right. So she had to do that. She had to go through some sort of sex offender program. There was a stay away order. She was not supposed to have any contact with Vili. And what else was there? What were the other requirements? Not much.
There wasn't much. It was just, but she did have to register as a sex offender.
She had to register as a sex offender. And even the sex offender treatment wasn't really true sex offender treatment. It was kind of like, oh, you got to go to therapy or something. Go talk to a therapist. It wasn't really like a targeted sex offender program, I don't think. But yeah, very, 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 very light slap on the wrist. But she had that 7.5 years hanging over her head. So if she messed up and she's on probation. If you mess up, then you got to go back automatically. There's no trial, no nothing. You just go straight to jail.
And apparently, I had read that she was a real pain in the ass in jail. Like real pain in the ass. Like, again, felt like the rules did not apply to her at all.
Well, and you know what? Before she got caught, here's another thing. One night she was out in her minivan, and she would let Vili do things that were adult-like because it sort of helped bolster her narrative that somehow this is not a child. She would let him smoke cigarettes and drive her car. So anyway, one night they're out in her minivan. Vili is driving. He's driving kind of erratically. And so a cop sees this and he looks and it's like, that looks like a kid driving this car. So the cop turns around, follows them, pulls them over. By the time the cop catches up with them, somehow Mary Kay is in the driver's seat. But he sees this young boy there, and he actually took them down to the station for questioning. And they both, I don't know, said the right thing. They had nothing to go on or any. And then they just let them go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so she just served 3 months. And what I read was that after she was released, because they had diagnosed her with bipolar, she had to take her meds. That was another requirement. So that after she was released, she stopped taking the meds and was rebelling against the sexual deviance, against the sexual deviancy counselor that she had to meet with. Like,
oh, wait a minute. Can I just say something? We've forgotten something completely. We forgot to talk about that she had a baby.
Well, yeah. So yes. So she got pregnant in, they start the affair in 96, early 96, June of 96. And she gets pregnant by, I want to say October. September. Oh, yeah. I have September. She gets pregnant by September. And basically she was telling people, right, that the baby was her husband's. Right. The husband thought that this was her baby. So then when she gets caught, it comes out that she has this baby. So she then ended up having, she had the first baby outside of prison. Before she went in.
Yeah, while it was in this pre-trial phase, before she took the plea agreement, she had her baby.
Yes.
Audrey, the older daughter.
And then she does the 3 months. She's a giant pain. Like, there were all these reports about how she was just felt like the rules didn't apply to her, like was demanding, wanted more phone time, wanted this, just impossible, and never followed the rules or whatever it is. So then 2 weeks after she gets released from prison, the first time, or jail, I guess it's only 3 months you're in jail. The first time, she gets caught in a car, out with Vili again. Not even trying to hide it. Just like out and about.
Well, I think they were planning some sort of escape because...
Oh, that's right.
She had a bunch of cash on her and her passport and some other stuff. It looked like they were maybe going to try to, make a run for it or something. And yeah, and she was contacting him while she was in prison. She wasn't supposed to be. So yeah, they get caught in a car, I think like in the act of having sex. There's in some parked car. And of course, yeah, everybody knows her. She's a celebrity practically. So of course they're going to be like on the lookout for her. They know what her car looks like. It's just like, just so delusional.
Yeah.
And so, of course, during that car sex, she gets pregnant again.
This woman is fertile. I'm telling you. She is fertile. So yeah, so during the few times that she's out, I mean, God, it was 2 weeks. She got pregnant within that 2 weeks. She gets pregnant again, but because she violated the agreement, she gets sent to prison for 7.5 years.
Yeah.
So Mary, she went to prison from 1998 to 2004. And then what happens is, and this is the part that I think is awful. And I feel like if Mary had any sense, she would at least own up to this, which is Vili is what, 14 now? And he now has 2 children.
Yeah. He had two children by the time he was 15, I think.
2 kids. So he
can't even have custody of them because he's a minor. His mother has custody. Yeah.
So he drops out of high school. He starts to struggle with suicidal ideation. He really felt like he was at the bottom, depressed, and alcoholic. He attempted suicide in March of 1999. And actually, Vili's family sued the school district because what happened was that poor Vili's mom, who doesn't really already have a lot of money or resources to begin with, now has 2 more children to take care of infants and a son who can't do anything.
He can't even get a work permit.
Yeah.
He's not even 16.
Yeah. He can't even work. He can't do anything. So she caused so much stuff. So she sued, and actually she wasn't awarded any money. That shocks me. It was like, it was unreal. But this is the part that is so infuriating, is she talks so much about how, Vili was so talented in his art and I saw something special in him and all this. And it's like, lady, you just ruined his goddamn life. Like, if you really cared about him and you really loved him, you would have you would have made different choices. You would have made very, very different choices. But what's happened now is he's a single parent, with his mom, with no prospects. And my guess, once she's out of his ear so much, confused and unsure,
I just don't think that she thinks past, 5 minutes from now.
Yeah.
I think she's just all about like getting what she wants when she wants it in the moment.
Yeah.
She has no idea that, God, just think about the number of people's lives she's wrecked. Her first 4 children, and the 2 daughters she had with Vili, they have always they've been interviewed. They've been in People magazine and interviewed, and they say, they try to come off as like, oh, it's all okay, and I love our parents and blah blah. But this is gonna hit them someday. I mean, they're like in their early 20s. Just wait till they become mothers, or you know what I mean? Someday it's going to hit them and they're just going to be like, what the fuck? I mean, they're already, I'm sure, suppressing a lot of this because this is a lot.
So then in 1998, a book comes out. It was only released in France. But basically it was called Only One Crime, Love. And it was released in France. And it's basically the 2 of them did the book. And in the book, apparently, because I didn't read it, but in the book, she still has feels like she did nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. She starts this narrative of all these things that we've already mentioned, which are like, he has seduced me, it's this, blah, 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 all of this BS. And so she does her 7.5 years, pretty much. I think she did 7, it looks like. And then, she did give birth to that second daughter in prison. Real great, mothering. And so then she gets out in 2004 and they get married in 2005. And they start this life together.
And by that point, Vili is like 21.
Yeah.
He went to court. He asked the judge to lift the no contact
That's right.
thing. And I mean, what the judge is like, well, okay, what can I do at this point?
Yeah.
But again, and also I believe that, when she was in prison all this time, I mean, I think he did have some other relationships. I don't know.
Yes, he did talk about that.
I guess
so. No, and I think she knew about that too.
She knew about that. But I mean, that's the thing. When he got out, it's like she still has that hold on him. And I don't think he was happy, because they ended up separating.
Yes. And you know what was interesting is that Australian TV interview it said 2018, but I read somewhere that he actually filed for separation in 2017.
2017, yeah.
So I was a little like, well, how long ago was this thing done? And, because it seemed like either it was some kind of money grab for them to just pretend like they're still together or something.
Get the People magazine money.
Yeah. But they had already been separated by the time that interview came out. So
yeah, and they claim there was a reason that like Vili, because she's a registered sex offender, he wanted to open a marijuana dispensary or something, and so they do a background check on you and your spouse and everything. So they claim that it was somehow because of that, but I don't know.
But they've made money in the past. Like he got into DJing and they would do this hot for teacher DJ nights and she would show up and it's really gross. Like now you've put this kid who had all of this artistic creative ability. Now this poor kid is like DJing hot for teacher nights because you've done this to him. I mean, so the Australian interview is utterly frustrating. And Mary Kay seems high most of the time. Yeah. And I really feel like, and I haven't read any interviews about this, but I really feel like Julianne Moore, who's such a great actress, studied that Australian TV interview because she adopted. Had that little lisp. She has a little bit of a lisp. She had a little bit of a lisp. But the other thing is, I feel like she had those, what do you call them? I always want to get them, but I don't because it'll give me a lisp. What are those? Veneers? You had them. The
Invisalign.
Invisalign. It looked like she had the Invisalign and was maybe just getting used to it a little bit at the time, but she had this little bit of this lisp and this kind of like airy, like, And the interviewer, I was a little worried it was going to be a puff piece, but he really started to get into it with them. And she kept denying everything. She kept denying that, we weren't really student and teacher at the time. So it really wasn't a student teacher relationship. And at one point, the interviewer called Vili, like he was a little boy. And Mary Kay is like, well, you know what? There's some 13-year-olds who are in prison and treated like adults and they get life sentences. And, it's like, what? That's apples. I mean, who cares? That's not right either. I don't think a 13-year-old boy should get a life sentence. I mean, again, that her argument, she talks in circles and she basically blames the fact that I didn't know it was legal. I didn't know it was illegal. I didn't know I could get da. It's like bullshit, lady. Bullshit. You knew what you were doing was wrong.
She talks about how when they were taking that summer school class, at the same time or whatever, that she felt like they were boyfriend and girlfriend because they were both taking junior college classes at the same time. And, that's what a boyfriend and girlfriend would do. And like she says to Vili, she turns to him and she says, you called me your girlfriend. And he says, I did. I mean, he's just sitting there completely. He barely says two words. She totally controls the narrative. He's just kind of looking at her when he actually has to like respond to something. He's always kind of like, I did. I don't know. I don't remember that. Like,
well, and he at moments will take a little bit more ownership of like, well, no, I think Vili knows now that he's an adult. Oh, this is wrong. This is wrong. And the interviewer was asking her about the relationship, and she gets so mad at him all the time. She gets so infuriating. Like, how dare you ask me these questions? I'm like, lady, what did you think he was going to ask you? What do you think? We're not asking you because we think you've got awesome opinions on cultural events. It's like, no, we're asking you because this is the only thing that's interesting about you. And but what made me so mad was that in the interview, she talks like men do when they justify sleeping with young girls and young women. He seems so mature.
He had a mustache.
He had a mustache. He was this. He came on to me. You know, he was, you know, he like he wanted it. He was looking for it. And it's like, do you not get that that's disgusting? And then she says, she starts to brag about how she, you know, I really made an adult decision not to go to trial because I didn't want to put Vili through that. I'm like, now you're making an adult decision? Now you're an adult? Now you understand what's going on? Like, she starts to claim that she didn't have a trial because, you know, because she didn't want to drag Vili through this. I'm like, no, you got a sweetheart deal and your attorneys told you, take the sweetheart deal, lady, like, and run. But then he would then come in and he would be a little more honest and straightforward about things. But yeah, I wrote this down in my notes too. Always worried about Mary Kay, not focused on himself.
He doesn't want to get her upset.
And he said, didn't know anything at that age. He knew he loved her. You know, it was like, okay. And they asked him, they said, Vili, at 35, could you start a relationship with a 13-year-old? And he said, no, I cannot look at a girl romantically at age 30. You know, I like, he said that. He was like, I'm 35 now. And like, I don't see 13-year-old girls as romantic rivals or people to be with. Like and so she doesn't even see the parallels. She keeps thinking like this is a different situation. They keep trying to point this out to her. Like, don't you see?
Right.
Like,
no, she thinks she's special. She thinks that their relationship is special. It's different. It was not like that. You know, she's justified all this in her mind. Yeah, just delusional.
She basically comes out and says she does not see it as abuse. And I'm like, then why does why do you think that you got what then? And then the other thing is the interviewer asked her, like, okay, so you think that it's okay for adult men and women to sleep with 12, 13-year-olds, like children underage? And she's like, no. And they both were like, oh no, it's a good law to have. They believe in the law. She just doesn't feel like it applies to her. And that's that whole thing.
Love. Yeah.
Yes. So if you're in love, it makes it all okay. It's like, so if I rob a bank, but I tell them that I'm in love with money. I'm in love with the teller. Right. I'm in love with this. I'm doing this for love. You know, that I should get off. Like, that makes no sense.
I know.
No sense.
So, I mean, it's unbelievable, you know, when he starts asking her about the law and she's like, well, you know, I knew that, there were laws about this, but I thought it was only applied to, you know, the other way around, you know, like an older man and a younger girl. And then she said, nobody did a press release in the state of Washington to say, hey, women can't have sex with boys under 18, something like that. And I'm just like, oh my God.
Oh, guess what, Mary Kay? Like, you know, what? Do we have any laws that just pertain to one gender?
Yeah,
can you think of any law that is just not abortion, but I mean, but that's, you know, that's a different, you know, that's the one thing.
That's not committing a crime. They're trying to make it one, but no, it's not. It's gender neutral. These laws apply.
The law is gender neutral. It is, but she somehow has justified it in her mind that, and I think, in my 2 cents is this. I think she knows it's wrong. I think she knows what she did was bad. I think she knows all of these things. I think that she's convinced herself that this does not apply to her. I think this is how she's been able to live with it.
Yeah.
This is just how she's been able to live with that. And I think that when you grow up in a household where you've got a parent saying one thing but doing another, it gets very confusing. And I think that it's very easy to sort of say, well, I guess, you know, I can get away with things, or I can break the rules, or, I guess I don't, just because I'm saying something over here doesn't mean that I really have to believe it over here, you know?
Yeah. Because her father didn't really suffer much consequence from his actions. I mean, yeah, he lost his political career, but he still had money. His wife came back to him. They ended up getting back together. He was still, I think, well regarded in the community. It wasn't like some total scandal that brought him down. He came out the other end okay. And I think she thought the same thing. She's like, well, once people understand that, no, this is not like that. This is not like every other situation. This is different, Yeah.
Well, there's also, what was I going to say? Oh God, it just left me as quickly. This is what happens when you get to be past middle age, is you have a thought and then it goes away really quickly. But this is it. So her father's situation, it's very similar, but the one difference was, my guess would be, if they met in college, she was at least over 18. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, she was not a minor. Yeah.
So of course, and I think in the back of her mind, right, this is how she's justifying it, which is like, oh, nothing's going to happen to me. Nothing happened to my dad or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, well, she was, what he did wasn't okay either, but she was an adult. Mm-hmm. She was 18, barely, but at the same time, like, it is different, I mean, it does change. So I don't think it's right. I didn't think what he did was right, but it's not illegal.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the May December movie, or do you have more in your notes?
I mean, I think that's kind of the gist of. I mean, like I said, she found out. I don't know if it was 2019, 2020 that she had colon cancer, and I think she died pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Thereafter, but Vili was kind of there for her in the end, and I don't know what.
Because they never legally divorced.
No,
they were separated.
And I don't even think I think they continued to live together in the same house too.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he was there for her. And one of these podcasts or whatever I was listening to, they were talking about how, towards the end, she did, towards the very, very, very end, when you're facing death, she did kind of come to terms with, taking some responsibility. And wasn't taking her usual, unapologetic stance about it. But, also, so, that the women, what's their podcast called?
Women in Crime.
Women in Crime.
Excellent. FYI, excellent podcast. If anyone loves crime, true crime, Women in Crime is a great show. It's the hosts are two criminologists that teach at John Jay, and they also, I'm part of their Patreon. They also do lectures on the Patreon, like they'll talk about certain things. So if you want a real academic approach, and they're fun, they're interesting to listen to. It's not like school, but they really understand it. And at the end of each episode, they go through and talk about, some of the things, like, was the punishment, justified? What were the stressors? What was going on? And they talk about a lot of the things that come up in their classes. So anyway, I just wanted to give them a plug because I've been listening to them for a while. I really like them.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at my notes here from what they said. And actually Mary and Vili did divorce in 2019. And then she died in 2020.
Oh, okay.
But anyway,
but he was still there for her. He was there by her side, and the girls. And honestly, I think Mary Kay dying is the best thing that could have happened. I think to all of them. I think that that set him free. And I really think that in about, I don't know. I mean, couple more years. I keep waiting for it since she passed away, but I really feel like he's going to come up with a book or something and really, because he now, sees that what happened was wrong.
Right. Yeah. I hope he's getting some help or gets some help or, to process all of this and that he can, move on. But, so at the end of the podcast, they talk about, these characteristics of her, they say her offending. So they talk about typology, and they say that female sex offenders are an understudied group. There's not as many categories for female sex offenders as men. But she falls under the teacher/lover typology. And she believes that she is in a loving and consenting relationship with Vili, that she's abusing. And, the victim is typically an adolescent male, and the women typically deny any sort of abusive behavior. They said that men who do this, they recognize that what they're doing is wrong, but still think it's consensual. Whereas she doesn't think she's doing anything wrong, and she thinks it's consensual.
Yeah.
And then they talk about something called techniques of neutralization. So like that's her denying that there was any injury. Like, he liked it, he enjoyed it, he wanted it. Denial that he's a victim, saying that she hasn't done anything wrong. And then they talked about like why she would do this to him, why she would turn to him. Basically to like fulfill a bunch of needs for her. Her marriage is bad.
She had a miscarriage in 96. And I remember reading that, and she did talk about that. So she had all these stressors happening.
Yeah.
That was one.
And so she's a very emotionally immature person because she's not really a good match for an adult, for someone who's equal. If she tried to go out and be with someone who was her equal, she'd be too immature for that person. You see how immature she is, from all these interviews. She's extremely immature.
Yeah.
So therefore she's seeking someone who's kind of on her level, an adolescent boy. She didn't date a lot of men other than Steve.
That's her
ex-husband. She believed that, Vili admired her. With Vili, she was safe. He wasn't her equal, so she didn't have to be a grown-up with him. It was a fantasy world in which she could escape from, this love fantasy. And then they also talk about her role models, the social learning theory, modeling her father's behavior. And then the last thing is it's called differential reinforcement. He was not punished for his behavior, her father, which reinforces that it's not so bad. And, she was very close to her father and defended him. And like I said, he didn't really lose much out of the whole thing. And she basically had no healthy coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
So that was their analysis.
So you're right. And it sounds absolutely right. Like a perfect storm, perfect storm of things. What happened with her father, her childhood, being at this really bad place, being at this place in her life, not having healthy coping skills. And I also think that there's something really, some people need to be they need to be in control. They need to be in control in their relationships. They need to feel like the smartest person. This is why, you meet people and you're like, God, how can you be married to that dummy? Like what? Like what do you talk about with them? But it's a little bit like, oh, you need to be the smartest person in the room all the time.
Yeah,
you need to always have the control, or you want to be the savior. And I think that, older women, younger men, or children, boys, has always been, I think people have a hard time wrapping their brain around it because a man has to have a certain amount of excitement, right, to have sex. And the thing is that just because Vili was excited, I think that we take that as, well, isn't that like some kind of consent? Yeah, he wanted it and that was consent. But it's like, no. And this is what happens for these young boys is they do feel that excitement. And I think he did want to have sex with her. He did. And I think he did think he loved her. I think he felt all these things. So just because he had the bodily response still does not make it okay. And that was the other thing that Mary Kay was talking about in that interview. She kept saying, well, aren't 13-year-old boys and girls having sex? And it's like, yeah, they're, okay. I mean,
but
again,
that's also problematic.
I don't think 13-year-olds should be having sex, but again, yeah.
But the biological response can happen, whether you want it to or not. It's somewhat involuntary, especially with somebody that young.
Yes.
So just because he's able to perform does not mean that he's sexually attracted to her, sexually excited, wants to have sex, or any of it. It's literally just like an automatic thing that just happens.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't mean anything. And I don't know, do you remember, I think it was it Love is Blind, the last season, there was a guy who talked about he had an experience when he was a teenager.
Yes,
not
it was that
12.
Yes, the one that was with Johnny. God, what was his name? I forgot his
name. But he talked about how when he was a teenager, he was, kind of pressured into having sex by an older woman, and he didn't feel good about it. And here he is, he's like now, like 30, and he was getting all emotional and upset about it, and it was hard for him to talk about it. So still to this day, it's a problem for him. And he didn't have 2 kids with the woman at age 15. It's like his situation is nothing compared to Vili's. So it's like, it's a myth that, it's okay because it's a boy. That's not going to affect them. They want it. It's okay. It's not going to hurt them.
Well, and there's been this, stereotype perpetuated with boys hot for teacher. Yeah. Like hot, really pretty, hot teacher. And, all the boys are fantasizing about her. And isn't she sexy and beautiful? And isn't this every young boy's fantasy? And it's like, no,
I don't know where that even comes from. Where did that even come from? I mean, we know about the Van Halen song, but I think it's been around for, longer than that. So I don't know where this originated from, but it's bullshit.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's always been that thing of like young girls having crushes on teachers and young boys having crushes on teachers. Right. But it's like,
like a Woody Allen movie. He writes these movies where these young girls fall in love with him because he's just so fucking irresistible. Oh
God, yeah,
so hot.
Yes.
Talk about delusional. But anyway, so this December movie I thought it was good. I enjoyed it.
Yes. I think that because at first I wanted to see it, and then everyone was like, ugh, it's terrible, it's weird, it's this, and then I watched it and I was like. And then I looked at who the director was. It's Todd Haynes. So if you know any of Todd Haynes' movies, he does a lot of movies with Julianne Moore and, Carol, and trying to think of other movies they did together. But he did, Velvet Goldmine, which I saw came out in 1998. It's still stuck in my mind. But his movies are weird. I don't know another way. His movies are wacky. I mean, they're a little like, and he, things move in and out of time and things are. And so I think that if you don't know who Todd Haynes is and what his style is like, I can understand how you might think it's a little odd, but it's actually, when you stop and really watch it, you're like, oh, it's really brilliant.
Yeah.
Julianne Moore is really brilliant.
You have to just kind of go with it. Cause I haven't seen those movies you mentioned, but at first I was kind of like, oh God, am I going to enjoy this? But then I just went with it, and it was really good. And it's sort of an imagined, it's basically, it is obviously based upon the Mary Kay Letourneau story. But it's kind of imagining what life is like after it, the aftermath, the kids are, it wasn't a teacher-student situation. It was like she worked at a store and he worked there, and I don't know, they had sex in the stock room, or I mean, it was different.
It was a pet store. Yeah.
It was different facts, but it was basically the same story. It's like, okay, now, this older woman had an affair with a teenage boy, and they had children, and now the children are grown and they're moving out of the house, and now it's just the 2 of them. And so now what? So it's like imagining what, Mary Kay and Vili would be going through. Although I think Mary Kay is crazier than this Julianne Moore character for sure.
I don't know. The character was like, she could not sustain. I mean, anything goes wrong or anything happens. I mean, she's like an emotional basket case, and they show how the Vili character constantly has to like, be there for her and talk her through things.
Okay. Yeah. But I think that's how Mary Kay was as well. I mean, super emotionally immature, even though this is a 50-something-year-old woman.
Mm-hmm.
She's like a child. Like, you know, she gets her feelings hurt so easily, and then she's crying, and then, you know, the husband has to he's just constantly consoling her and, you know, taking care of her, making sure she's okay, and everyone's walking on eggshells, and you know, she's very controlling, and, you know, it's just like, oh wow. And I think that the movie was spot on. I think that's exactly how their relationship was, you know, after she got out of prison and they got married, and it's like, oh, we can finally be together. Like, you know, oh, okay. But no, it's like everything is still fucked up.
Yeah.
Because this is a fucked up relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
hence why we have these laws. Hence why I don't care how in love you think you are.
You know,
there's a reason why we have these laws. I've said this many times, but even at 18, your brain doesn't fully form until you're 25, right? You know, you should not, we were talking about this earlier today. You should not be I don't think anyone should be getting married before, for a female, 28. For a male, 32. You know, I don't think that you should be buying a house before you're 30. Like, there are these big things that will definitely changes your life and influences your life tremendously, that you should not be making lifelong decisions about until you're a certain age, until you've at least your brain's fully formed and you have a sense of who you are and what you're doing and where you're going. Because in the movie, we also see that the Vili character, I can't remember what their names were in the movie,
but their real names.
But the Vili character, the young boy, he's still very childlike.
Yeah.
You know, he's the one helping Mary Kay, but like, he's also himself. You know, and we see this at the end of the movie where he is just, you know, because Natalie Portman's in the movie and she's an actress, a famous actress who comes and wants to study, you know, Julianne Moore, and
they're going to make a movie about her.
Yeah. And and Vili becomes a little infatuated with her. And the way he acted, you know, about her being like, what are you talking about? Like, we're not in love now.
Yeah, because he has more in common with his kids. You know, I mean, I think, you know, he's playing video games. You know, like, just he has more. He's literally has more in common with his kids than he does with her. Yeah. So.
Yes. And I know a lot of people play video games. A lot of adults. My husband does, but like, there's a difference. There's a big difference. So.
Yeah, I'm not trying to put down people who play video games, but you know, you can tell he's doing it, you know, just to kind of numb out and tune her out, you know, kind of like tuning out your mom while she's, you know,
lecturing you
about something.
Yeah, but her acts impacted her ex-husband, her 4 kids, the 2 daughters that she had,
Vili's mom.
I mean, that poor woman, I really feel for her because I would be livid if I was that mother. You know, Vili, I'm sure, you know, a lot of people in Vili's family, a lot of people in Steve's family and her family. I mean, all of it.
She has, you know, 5 living siblings. I assume but her parents, I don't know when they passed away, but I mean, they probably had to witness some of this. Yeah. Just, and her kids. And I don't know where I read this. She claims that at the time of her death, they were claiming that she had some type of relationship with her 4 oldest kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, maybe they, you know, forgave her, or, you know, but I don't know, but God, I mean, that affects them. That affects their children. She really had a very negative impact on a lot of people.
Can you imagine Steve Letourneau? Like, Letourneau?
Right.
You know, I mean, his
name has been soiled.
Yeah, every single time you would hear that, wouldn't you stop and be? He must get bothered constantly. The children who have that last name, Letourneau, you know, both sides. These 2 girls, I mean, that they had, we see the two girls in the interview. They're two kids, and they seem, I think at the time they were like 16 and 17. And they seem very, well spoken and sweet and smart and all of these things. But I'm with you. That's what I keep waiting for, is some kind of Vili and the Daughters kind of like coming out with something.
We need a book. Yeah.
Yes.
To hear their side, because that's the other thing too. The girls, their narrative was controlled by their mother. I feel like the three of them, Vili and the girls, they were probably all scared to death of her. It was like walking on eggshells with her. They had to do and say the right thing. And, so I don't know. Now maybe they can speak their truths and we can hear it from them, because she required all of them to just continue this facade that this is just a fairy tale love story.
Yeah. Unreal. All right. Well, any other thoughts on Mary Kay?
No, I'm exhausted by her.
Yeah. It's just, I kind of feel like, okay, you're gone. Good. Goodbye.
Yeah.
I hope wherever you are, Mary Kay, you are realizing what you did and hopefully taking some ownership of it. So it's unreal.
You're not a good person.
Yeah. So, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoy this podcast, please go to Apple and give us a 5-star rating. It really does help us out. And subscribe if you have not subscribed already. Hit that subscribe button. And we are on social media at Psych Legal Pop at TikTok and Instagram. And we just really spread the word. Tell a friend. If everyone told one friend, and then that person told one friend, and that person told one friend. If you're old like us, you probably know what that commercial is from. And then one person, and then
they tell two friends, and then they tell two friends.
Yeah, what was that? What product?
It was a shampoo. It was like
that's right,
Breck shampoo.
Yeah, but then all the little boxes would come on with it. They would tell two friends, and they would tell. This was high tech in the 70s. Was it 70s or 80s? 70s, and they will tell two friends, and they will tell two friends. Yeah. So yes, let's be like the Breck commercial.
Yeah,
and also spread the word.
There's a plethora of documentaries, docuseries, and stuff coming out right now. We're trying to figure out what do we want to cover, and so maybe let us know, email us, or go on Instagram and leave a message, because I don't. I feel paralyzed. I don't know where to go from.
Well, here. But this is part of the problem, and I will. Anybody who's told us about something, if I have not responded to you directly on Instagram, it's not that we're ignoring you. We do hear everybody's recommendations. It's not just our Uncle Bill, but
he is the main source.
Yes, he is the main source. But the thing is that I think for us, it's a combination of time, right? Because these damn documentaries so used to be an hour and a half. That was it. They could squeeze it all in there. But now every documentary you're lucky if it's 3 hours. It's 6 hours
series.
Yes.
Yeah. Like the Natalia Grace thing. It's the second season started, and I would like to cover it, but it's I have to go back and watch the first season, which is 6 hours. Then, catch up. And
then catch up.
There's already 2 hours. So that's like a whole Saturday. So it's kind of, if anyone knows a reasonable length documentary, I'll between 2 and 3 hours tops.
Yeah.
When you get past 3 hours, that just gets to be a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I think 3 hours, we can do 3 hours, but anything beyond that. But, yeah, I'm with you because I didn't watch the first season of Natalia Grace, but Gypsy Rose Blanchard is in the news right now. And, it's crazy. She was on The View. She's got millions of followers. She's got all this stuff going on. So that was my suggestion. But again, it's there's some Lifetime movie that's coming out, or you said A&E, and then, there's so much content out there. It's just oh God.
Yeah, I don't know. Check that out and see how long that is. But I watched the it was a more like a made for TV movie type thing. It was on Hulu, I think, with Patricia Arquette.
Mm-hmm. The Act.
Several years ago. I thought that was excellent. So I don't know, is there new information now about?
Well, but she's, the new stuff is the movie, this show, and the fact that she's now out for prison. So she's also being interviewed everywhere, and she's on the cover of People magazine.
But what does she have to say that's new from like that movie?
Well,
she's just been doing her time in prison. What has changed? We know what happened before that, how she got there.
So now she's married now to someone that, if you listen to Heather McDonald, she says that her new husband looks just like her mother.
Oh.
Yeah, there's like some resemblance. I have to look at the pictures side by side. I haven't done that yet. And then the other one is she talks about, the one sort of fact that I know about her is that she wants to work on criminal justice reform. Basically she said that she regrets what she did. But she her mother had to die. She was like, I don't think I was ever going to get out without my mother dying. And now she wants to work on criminal justice reform, which is great. She wants to work with Kim Kardashian.
Oh, well,
justice reform.
That's a pair.
Yeah. So, that's the only new information, but she's like this hot topic.
I know.
Like everybody's talking about her, and she's everywhere. So there's that one. There's the Murder in Boston. I want to cover that.
I want to see that. I think that's only 3 hours.
Yes, that I think would be good.
Yeah,
so anyway, this is our very long-winded way of saying, please get the suggestions coming. It's not that we don't pay attention to them. We do. We always take them into consideration. It's just always a combination of time and just bandwidth in terms of, like what we can consume. If we do too many cult shows. Oh, I wanted to do that Daughters of the Cult. I do think we should do that because those people are related to Christine's family.
I know, but that one
I know, it's 5 hours.
But yeah, the cult thing, at least I feel like that's some new information. I just really feel like the Gypsy Rose thing is nothing new. It's not a new story.
Yeah.
I'm not ruling it out. I'm just saying, like, it's easier to get excited about something that you don't know anything about.
Yeah.
So.
But anyway, so we do appreciate it. And yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
This message comes from Jackson. Taxes aren't something you can only think about once a year. With investments, planning for tax day is year-round. Fortunately, Jackson offers tax-efficient products. Visit Jackson.com for more information on how our products can make your tax bill a little bit less painful. Jackson is short for Jackson Financial Incorporated, Jackson National Life Insurance Company, Lansing, Michigan, and Jackson National Life Insurance Company of New York, Purchase, New York.
Howdy, howdy, ho, and welcome to Fantasy Fan Fellas. I'm Hayden, producer of the Fantasy Fangirls podcast and your resident lover of all things Sanderson.
And I'm Steven, your bookish internet goofball, but you can call me the Smash Daddy.
And we are currently deep diving Brandon Sanderson's fantasy epic, Mistborn. But here's the catch. Steven here has not read Mistborn before.
That's right, hey. So each week, you'll get my unfiltered, raw reactions to every single chapter.
And along the way, we'll do character deep dives, magic explainers, and Steven will even try to guess what's next. Spoiler alert, he'll be wrong.
Newsflash, I'm never wrong. Episodes come out every Wednesday, and you can find Fantasy Fan Fellas wherever you get your podcasts.
Over 90 of the top 100 U.S. accounting firms trust Bill to simplify and secure bill pay. That's proven financial infrastructure built on over $1 trillion of secure payments. Visit Bill.com/proven for a special offer.